All right, we're ready to go. Chad, Derek, Taylor. Oh, I guess it's just me then. Welcome to the Bourbon Doctors. That's right, y'all. No Chad Buss, no Derek Yearman, no Taylor Beers. It's just me this week. So I thought we'd do a quick tasting. I picked up this bottle of Penelope Bourbon Barrel Strength, batch number 10. Have I ever had it? No. We're going to have it today. It's 115.8 proof, and if I remember right, it was around $60. I picked it up at a place in Illinois called Wine on Broadway. Didn't get any wine, but got some really good bourbon picks. This is basically sourced whiskey from MGP. It's a blend of 3 different barrels, all aged to at least 4 years, and non-chill filtered. I personally have never had a 4-grain, so let's see what we think. On the nose, maybe some brown sugar. It might be an off-nose day. I'm not getting a whole lot. Surprisingly, for barrel strength, it's not hitting me with a lot of astringency. A little oak maybe, but not super overwhelming. Maybe I'm just whelmed at the nose. But on the palate, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Chocolate up front is what I got. A little hints of honey, maybe. It's super sugary sweet up front. Certainly notes, at the end, a little bitter dark chocolate at the end. Maybe a little hint of oak. This is a really complex dram. I'm really happy with this. I certainly don't get a lot of the wheat influence, and I'll have to look up the mash bill. I'll look that up and put it up somewhere here or there, somewhere. And maybe we won't find the mash bill, but the presence of the wheat, certainly I don't get that wheat funk that I talk about in some of our other episodes. You know, wheated bourbons for me have a certain something that I always just describe as a funkiness, and this doesn't have that. I wouldn't have picked out that this is a wheated bourbon, other than maybe it's just not as spicy as you might expect if it were a straight 3-grain with rye. It's really easy sipping for 115 proof. You don't get much hug at all. Boy, I tell you, this is a pretty darn good bottle of bourbon. Again, my first time having Penelope, I would certainly say this is a buy it bottle. Oh, there's a little bit of the wheat funk at that last sip. Yeah, it's a really delicious, sugary sweet, a fair amount of complexity. I mean, you guys know that I'm not one to usually pick out 15 different flavors from a dram, but this is, you get hints of chocolate, hints of honey, certainly some sugary sweet, caramel, vanilla as typical. But it's a little underwhelming on the nose, but really good on the palate, which isn't that what matters? Like, I'm not buying it to smell it, I'm buying it to drink it. So overall, I mean, this is a pretty good bottle of whiskey. I would certainly recommend this as a buy. Penelope is out of Bardstown. I did mention that it's MGP sourced, but they blend it down in Bardstown. Maybe what we should do is compare this with a bottle of something from my other favorite Bardstown distillery, Bardstown Bourbon Company, on the Discovery Series. In fact, maybe that's what we'll do. All right, so I grabbed a bottle of Bardstown Bourbon Company Discovery 7. This has been sitting on the shelf for a little while. We haven't reviewed it yet. We've seen it from some of the other channels. And honestly, Chad just hasn't been around to try this bottle yet. The Disco 7 is not a bourbon technically. It's a blend of a variety of whiskeys. It's 31% Kentucky corn, 25% Kentucky corn with a slightly different mash bill. Those are both 12-year. There's a 12-year Ontario whiskey, a 7-year Indiana, which again, assume MGP, and then a 17-year Tennessee. Assume Dickel, right? And a lot of people didn't love the Dickel influence, especially on the last two of the Bardstown Discovery Series, 6 and 5. Now, I didn't get 5, but 6 was really one of my favorite bottles of last year. It was super like berry forward, super sweet, just a delicious bottle. Full disclosure, I've had some sips out of this one and I'm less impressed with it. Even though, like, you know, some of the other YouTubers, the bourbon junkies in particular, really like this bottle. So let's compare the two, shall we? So on the nose, there is a little bit of red fruit on this one. A little vanilla. Mostly I get red berries. And see, now on the palate, rumor is, or at least what I've heard, is that the Ontario is a light whiskey. And that's where I feel like that comes forward in this. There's less of that caramel, vanilla sweetness that you get from that barrel char. And I think there's it's just a little bit more influence of that new charred oak barrel influence. You can really taste the influence of the light whiskey or the Canadian whiskey on this bottle. This also is a 114 proof, so a similar proof point to the Penelope. And actually the price point on this is like $139, so significantly more money than the Penelope Barrel Proof. This is mostly, I really get a lot of the influence from the light whiskey. There are some hints of vanilla and caramel. I mean, it's mostly bourbon, right? But I do get a lot of that light whiskey influence. It does cut back on some of the sweetness of the profile overall. So, I mean, if you find that you don't like your whiskeys overly sweet, and I mean, you know, overly sweet is a relative term, then this may be a great bottle for you. Personally, I preferred the Discovery 6, but this is certainly not a bad bottle, and I have to say that overall, I like it more as it's opened up a little bit. I like it more now than I did when I first opened it. That being said, I still think I prefer the Penelope. I prefer the Penelope at a lower price point. And really, you know, value, let's be real, like $145 for a bottle now. It's not outrageous, but it's certainly up there. Yeah. So I prefer the Penelope of the two. Similar bottles. They're, you know, Bardstown Discovery Series, again, neither one of these are really readily available in Minnesota. If you live in the more southern states, both of these are are things that you can pick up at your local liquor store. They're not really things that you have to search out and pay allocated prices for. But at $140 versus, I think, $60 to $70, the Penelope really wins me over. I still think this is a very good bottle. I still prefer the Disco 6, and honestly, I do a head-to-head with those, but I drank all my Disco 6, and, well, I'm actually looking into buying another bottle if I can find one. Anyway, there you have it. It was supposed to be a quick tasting. It turned into a quick comparison, but here are 2 bottles of whiskey. They're both really good. I would highly recommend, like, if you can have access to them and can purchase them, by all means do. They're both really good. At the price point, I think Penelope's a better bargain, a better buy. This is a great, the batch 10, again, it's the first batch I've had of their whiskey. I really like it. I think it's good. It's got a great flavor profile that fits with my flavor profile. And hey, guess what? For today, that's the only profile that you guys get to hear about. Thanks again to Derek Gearman for getting me the bottle of Bardstown. Remember, check out our merch, Bourbon Doctors, thebourbondoctors.com/shop. We sell some t-shirts, we sell some hats. We've got some stuff for you. Check it out. Otherwise, remember, like, comment, subscribe. Bourbon is for drinking. Chad will be back next week, so be sure to tune in. It'll be a more enjoyable show.